Hey guys, I've got something a little different for you today. The Fun Pimps have released all the details surrounding the release of the Storms Brewing update. After more than a couple of pushbacks, we now know when we can expect to get our hands on version 2.0. So let's jump in and take a look at what the Fun Pimps have put out. According to a post on X by the Fun Pimps, there are a few dates in June that are worth keeping an eye out for. On Tuesday, June 10th, there's going to be a dev stream. In this stream we should hopefully hear and maybe see a few of the features that will be coming with 2.0, which will be quite nice. Then on the Friday, which is June 13th, it's Streamer Weekend. This runs through from the 13th to the 15th, and many of the larger creators will be streaming the newest version of the game. So if you want to take a closer look at what's to come, then check out some of the other creators and see who's streaming that weekend. On Monday, June 16th, so the day after the Streamer Weekend finishes, the experimental version is set to release. If you're on PC, then you can hop on and see all of the new changes that are coming to the game. It's worth keeping in mind that when the stable version goes live, you won't be able to carry over your save files from the experimental version. Or at least that's how things usually work with these updates. Then, if everything goes well, the stable version should be coming out on both PC and consoles on Monday, June 30th. So while this is at the very end of June, we do officially have a release date, so that's nice. Keep in mind that these things might change. All of the information and the sources and links and all that stuff will be in the description below if you want to take a look for yourself, but at the moment, that's where we stand with this update. For those who don't know about some of the changes coming to the game, let's gloss over a few of the big ones. There's going to be a new biome progression system. This system will require players to survive and adapt in difficult situations. So things like smoke, heat, cold and radiation will all be factors that players will need to keep in mind while making their way from biome to biome. I think it's pretty easy to see which element you'll be struggling with in each biome. The heat will be the desert, smoke, burnt forest, cold, the snow biome, and the radiation will be in the wasteland. There used to be a similar feature to this pre 1.0, but this looks like it's going to be pretty different to the old one, so it'll be exciting to see how that's going to work. I for one do think it's going to give the game a little bit more depth, which is quite nice. At the moment, aside from a few different enemies that you encounter earlier, there isn't really much to deter you from heading straight to the wasteland. So if all goes well, this feature will hopefully create a more tiered experience for players. The biome progression system will also have a maximum loot cap for biomes. This is designed to help nudge players into more difficult areas to find the best loot. I quite like this one because you can, if you really want, survive a whole playthrough without ever leaving the Pine Forest, and because it's all tied to your loot stage, you will eventually get top tier items in the forest, and I think it's kind of nice that you've got to explore the more dangerous areas to get the best loot, so I'm quite happy with this change. Some of the new biomes will also have new enemy types. These include the Desert Plague Spitter and the Snow Frost Claw. According to the Fun Pimps, these enemies will have completely unique behaviours. I'm not sure what they mean by that, but I'm going to assume that the Spitter spits, and the Snow Frost Claw will have claws of some form. So maybe there will be a new injury type, I don't know, but still. It's going to be interesting to see how these enemies behave and how things work. There's going to be a new dynamic severe storms feature coming to the game. These storms will force players to seek shelter, which will add a new threat for players to overcome. Each of the biomes is set to have a unique storm type. I assume that this will tie in with each of the biomes' weather systems to create some pretty interesting and hopefully memorable situations for players. The perk system is getting a new tab, that is the General tab. The General tab will have new perks that players can unlock. Also, each perk will have 5 levels. I don't think that's just the General tab, I think that's all tabs, which will be pretty helpful because at the moment some perks have 3 levels, others have 5. It can be a little bit tricky figuring out what you want and how many points you need to save up. Also, if I've understood things right, the General Perks tab won't actually require any attributes for using the perks. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work, or if there'll be a cap on how many you can have or something like that, so it'll be interesting to see how that works. There'll be a new book series centered around sledgehammers called Sledgehammer Saga. I personally am not the biggest fan of sledgehammers. That said, I know there are lots of players out there who do love the sledgehammer and will no doubt be very excited to collect all of the new books. We'll also see some new higher game stage zombies. Similar to the green radiated zombies that we get, there will be a couple of new zombie types coming, and they are the charged blue and infernal orange zombies. It does say in the notes, which should be on the screen now, that these new zombies will come with new behaviours, so that might be pretty interesting. I'm assuming these are just going to be tankier enemies that hit harder than normal, but I guess we'll wait and see. Navezgane will also be getting a little bit of love, which is quite nice because I know a lot of veteran players don't necessarily like Navezgane, but if you are new, then Navezgane tends to be the first map you go on, and over the past couple of years it's just received zero attention, so the fact that this is going to be getting a little bit of a makeover is quite nice. And to finish off, the Fun Pimps are aiming to add 50 new POIs to the game. I don't know how big they're going to be. I'm assuming it's going to vary from small, easy to miss locations to some pretty big ones, maybe a few top tier POIs, that would be really nice. But overall, there are quite a few new things coming to the game. There are a handful of other things coming to the game that I haven't mentioned in this video. As I said before, I will put all the links to the posts put out by the Fun Pimps if you want to check those out for yourself. One last thing before I go. I was recently on a podcast, and that podcast channel is called the Boom Boom Room Podcast. So thank you to Ashes Antics for letting me on that. I had a good time recording it. I will be putting a link to the podcast up on the screen now, and I'll put a link to Ashes Antics in the description if you want to go and check him out. With that said, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you found this interesting, and I'll catch you in the next one.